Hello and welcome to Flax on Snax Spicy Sampler Edition. Today I'm going to be sampling 5 new and relatively new spicy snack products, ranging from spicy chips to spicy crackers all the way up to spicy almonds. These are going to be in a range of heat levels, I think, but all of them should be at least fairly spicy. At the outset, let me give a quick shout out to viewers and fellow spice lovers, Shannon and JP, who joined me in the Fiery 5 challenge and I think enjoyed it comparably to how I did. If you like spice, we're going to see if the products on today's show are something that you want to run out and buy, or if there's something that just causes pain. But let's get into it on this episode of Flax on Snax. So you've seen the 5 products. I'm going to try and go in increasing order of spice level. I want to start with the mildest and then work my way up the way the Fiery 5 challenge was supposed to work. Of course, if you recall, that didn't go super well for me, but you know, these things happen. The trick, of course, here is that I'm not entirely clear on what the different levels of spice in each of these products are. I can make some educated guesses. So we have ghost pepper almonds. These are probably going to be the hottest item. We also have habanero lime potato chips. These are probably going to be the second hottest item. Flamin' hot, I kind of know what to expect out of that product line because there have been so many Frito-Lay Flamin' hot products at this point. And then there are the 2 products that label themselves Scorchin. What exactly does that mean? Not entirely clear. But we're going to have to dig into it and find out. So I think I'm going to go ahead and start there. I'm going to start with Cheez-It Grooves Scorchin Hot Cheddar. Now this is a new extra hot flavor, as the box tells you. But when I look at the ingredients, there is no specific mention of pepper. So however they've gotten the spice in here, they're not doing it with like actual pepper flakes, pepper extract. I mean, to compare it, okay, the Pringles Scorchin, so that also uses the word Scorchin. This one specifically contains chili pepper powder. I believe all the other ones do as well. I will confirm that when I go to taste them. But because this one, the Cheez-Its, does not contain any specific pepper powder, I'm just going to go ahead and assume that this is going to be the least spicy. Now, they nevertheless have fire on the front of the box and it says extra hot flavor. So they've done it somehow. I'm not really sure how. Packed with a scorching hit of cheese and extra hot flavor in every crunchy ridge. Well, I mean, you can already see they've done it by just dusting these things with, you know, your kind of classic red powder, which this is basically what the Flamin' Hot products also look like. Although these are not a Frito-Lay product. This is a Kellogg's product. So they've done their own version of it. They don't smell incredibly spicy. They do remind me a little bit of the way a bag of Flamin' Hot Cheetos might smell. which makes some sense. I mean, these look like they've got kind of just this flaming hot sort of powder on there. And then, of course, they are cheesy crackers. Cheez-It grooves. I'm honestly not sure why these really needed to exist as distinct from Cheez-Its, but sure, I guess they're a little thinner and crispier as opposed to the Cheez-It, which is a little flakier. Let's get into it. Well, whew, that hits immediately. Okay. I do like the crunch of these crackers. Good crunch level. You know, nice and resistant to the tooth, without being overly hard, but that good level of crunch for the texture. I mean, see, one thing that's disappointing, the heat is just heat. Not a lot of, there's a little, but there's not a lot of spice flavor, which makes sense if you look at the ingredients list and you don't see anything that's actually a natural container of spice. It's just like, yeah, we threw in some chemicals to make this hot. Which, okay, if, you know, you want to eat some Cheez-Its with a spicy experience, this is that, certainly. But I would have liked a little more flavor with the spice. It's one reason why I don't really like a lot of the spicy candies. The flavor isn't any different from regular candy. They've just kind of added this heat component on top of it, which, you know, it does something for the experience, but that's not really what I'm looking for. I want to taste the spice. That was actually the thing I liked about the Jelly Belly Fiery 5. It tasted like the peppers, and you had some good pepper flavors in there before the heat kicked in. At least in the first two. The last couple really spicy ones, maybe not quite as much, but those were just really spicy. I don't know. There's a little bit of spice flavor, but it mostly tastes like cheddar. It tastes like a Cheez-It, which I like Cheez-Its. I mean, well, I take it back. These don't taste like Cheez-Its. They taste a little distinct from a regular Cheez-It. But generally speaking, they taste like a crunchy cheese cracker, which I'm totally fine with. But then there's this spice layer on it, which, I mean, it's delivering the heat. You know, if your goal is just to have, you know, a Cheez-It experience that also, you know, sets your mouth a little bit on fire, these will do that, for sure. Personally, I'm looking for a little bit more. I think that's kind of a cheat. It's just like, this isn't fun enough. I want a little more distinct flavor in there. Like, say whatever you want about the Flamin' Hot. There's a very specific Flamin' Hot taste, which I tend to like. These, to me, come up a little short in that department. So, you know, they're fine. They're edible. They will do if you're looking for a spicy snack, but these could be better. So I'm going to roll right into the second snack because, honestly, those weren't that hot, the Cheez-Its. You know, they hit quickly, but they also fade kind of quickly, which does sort of suggest that artificiality to me. So, Pringles, Scorchin chili and lime. I like the little Pringle man blowing the steam or whatever there. Smoke coming out of his ears that don't exist on his head. 2% or less of salt and then chili pepper powder. So they're using actual chili pepper. I do see a couple of chemicals in here that were also listed on the Cheez-Its, so they may have kind of amped the chili a little bit. Alternately, those could just be preservatives. I'm not really sure, but if those aren't hot chemicals. I don't know what they were generating the heat with from the Cheez-Its, so maybe they're hot chemicals. I don't know. Not really that important. At least there's actual chili pepper in here. I'd say you can smell it too. So there you go. Once again, kind of just this coating of red powder, but I'm at least hoping that this will be a little more flavorful in its natural state. This one also has some lime in it, so I definitely get there's some of that acidity in the aroma. And hopefully, I mean, the lime is nice because it kind of cuts and therefore it sort of sets off the heat a little bit. Where the heat just lands right on the tongue. I think kind of the powder sort of landed, or the chip sort of landed powder side down on my tongue. It's just like, here you go. Just deposit it all right there. So bam. So it got napalmed right on the tongue. Again, I like the way the lime is in there to sort of delineate a little bit. It sort of leaves you with a little more sense of like, here's exactly what the heat is doing. And to some extent, I think it keeps the heat from fading quite as quickly. Because again, it sort of lets you know where it is. The Cheez-Its did not have the lime. Not surprising. I'm not sure that pairs as well. But because of that, I feel like the heat in those faded a little quicker. These are solid. Good heat level. Pretty, pretty warm. But not like crazy intense. Not painfully intense. But certainly plenty of it. So you definitely, you're not going to miss it. Still some flavor. I'd say more, kind of heat flavor than the Cheez-Its had. The lime is doing some of the work, to be fair. So I would like to see a little bit more. I'd like a little more pepper taste, as opposed to having it primarily taste like heat. This, I would say, is probably around a cayenne level. That's the level of heat that I associate it with, as far as like, if you think of, cayenne pepper powder that you might have in a little jar in your kitchen. This is around that level, I think. So whatever that is, that's like, I don't know, 75,000 Scovilles, maybe? Is that too much? 50,000? It's somewhere in that range, I think. But yeah, it's, it's fading back out pretty quick after I, have not had a few for a couple of minutes here. So it's not gonna like punish you with the heat. But as you are eating them, you will not mistake there is a good level of heat in there. So I think that's a pretty good balance to strike. With heat in particular, it's a real your mileage may vary situation, because everyone's got a different tolerance, I think, for levels of heat. So this is my personal opinion. Again, I would compare this to cayenne. So think about your own experience with using cayenne or that kind of thing in cooking, or with eating like Flamin' Hot chips, to kind of judge how you feel about whether you might want to try any of these. These are similar to Flamin' Hot, I think, although I'm going to try the Flamin' Hot next, so we'll get a sense for how close they are. Is this also a Frito-Lay? No, the Pringles. Oh, I thought I realized Pringles were just their own company. All right, good for you, Pringles. Don't sell out to the man. But anyway, these are pretty good for, just like a spicy chip product. I think these work. I think they have, good spice level without being overwhelming. Decent flavor. Again, I'd like a little more in the pepper department, just to taste the pepper a little bit more, but I don't know how much that's going to happen with any of these. So from the standpoint of most spicy snacks, these are a winner. All right. So Flamin' Hot Limon, Lay's Kettle Cooked. Of course, Flamin' Hot, a Frito-Lay staple at this point, to the extent that they have now extended it into the Flamin' Hot Limon variety, which I tried the Flamin' Hot and Flamin' Hot Limon Doritos when those came out, whatever that was, a year or two ago. And recall liking them pretty well, so I do tend to like how the lime pairs with the heat, but we'll see if that stays the case here. I don't know that I've had a spicy kettle cooked before. I'm trying to think, maybe I might have had some spicy kettle chip at some point. Actually, we're gonna do that in a minute, but like a kettle brand kettle chip, that is to say. Yeah, so this one, I mean, this is another case where it doesn't specifically list anything like pepper, but it does at least say spices. And this one does not have weird chemical names like the Cheez-Its did. So I assume that whatever is making this hot is contained in spices, more or less. But yeah, no artificial flavors. That's nice. Flamin' Hot, famously invented by, I think it was a janitor at Frito-Lay in like the mid-90s, who, made good from it. So it's a nice story. Ooh, these are angry looking. That is a red looking chip. They really doused that bad boy. They actually smell more like, kettle cooked chips than a bag of Flamin' Hot anything. You can smell that heat a little bit though. All right. There it is. That one takes a second. Sometimes that happens. I feel like something about the kettle cooking is maybe causing it to be a little sneakier too. Like it's just I gotta do all this crunching, so I'm not even thinking about the spice. And then it sort of arrives. They're certainly warming me up. I mean, I can feel my head starting to sweat. I won't go into detail like I did in the Jelly Belly episode, but you'll probably see something at some point, I would guess. I like the crunch on this a lot. It's kind of separate from the heat factor, obviously. But, the kettle cooked chips are good, crunch-wise, texture-wise. They're fine. I gotta be honest, I'm a little disappointed with these. I typically have liked Flamin' Hot. I ate a lot of Flamin' Hot Cheetos in college, back when they were still a relatively new product. These have the Flamin' Hot flavor broadly, and they certainly have the spice. I don't know. I mean, the heat is definitely getting me. I mean, I can feel the sweat. My mouth is warm. That's all fine. Heat-wise, I think it's a good level of heat. I would say it's probably comparable to the Pringles, maybe a skosh above. It's pretty close. There's not as much flavor quite in these as there is in the Pringles, I don't think. I'm getting a good crunch, a good texture out of the kettle chips, but I'm not sure I'm getting all the flavor of the kettle chips, but I'm not getting that much flavor out of the Flamin' Hot. I mean, it's there, but for some reason it feels subtler than usual to me. And I don't know if it's just kind of being sort of counterbalanced by, the oil in the kettle chips or something about the texture is just kind of distracting from it. But somehow it's just not quite getting there for me. Yeah, it doesn't taste like as much as I was expecting. So these are an okay product, and they deliver on the heat. So if you're looking for, you know, a nice spicy snack experience, these crunch nicely and are a warming product. So, you know, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I would have liked a little more flavor. I just think they fall a little short in that department, at least as I'm trying them now. I mean, you know, this is already the 3rd thing I've eaten, so you do have to bear that in mind, but I did cleanse the palate in between. You know, and it's not an issue of, you know, the heat isn't catching me. You know, I would think I would still be able to taste, you know, the lime. I should be able to still taste the lime. The lime isn't prominent. It was pretty prominent in the Pringles. So between the two of these, as far as like the chili lime experience, I prefer the texture of these. They crunch nice. The heat is probably a wash. These are maybe a little bit hotter, not by much. But the Pringles have the better flavor. So, you know, if you're making your decision based on that, I guess pick which one you're more concerned about. But yeah, so these are totally fine. Could have been better. So now, with sweat already running down my face, it's time to up the ante. Did I have to do these all in a row? No. Am I going to? Yes. Kettle chips brand, crinkle cut, habanero lime. And they literally list both habanero peppers and habanero and chili pepper extracts in their ingredients. So this should be fun. This also contains both lime juice concentrate solids and lime oil. So I'm expecting some pretty good flavor in here. And possibly also mouth singeing heat. Ooh, these are deceiving. I smell. So they really do not, and I guess, you know, maybe some of this can tell you that the angry red on the other chips is not really a color found in nature, but these are not letting you know, by the way, not just by looking at the chips. You know, this is, if you just put a bowl of these out at a party, if you want to be a real jerk, you know, so you just grab a handful without really thinking about it. Oh, chips. All right. Oh. Yeah. Boy, habanero, man. I'm pretty sure the same thing happened in the Fiery 5 jelly beans. Whew. That creeps up on you. It's like, oh, these aren't doing that much. Okay, well that's, oh, yeah, it was one of those. So you really get somebody screwed up with a bowl of these. Oh yeah. Woo. I mean, so the problem I have with these is, so let me start off by saying the positives. Again, the texture is great. I really like the crunchiness, the crispiness of this, you know, so it's already kettle cooked and then it's crinkle cut, so you got the ridges. So really nice and crispy. Nice kind of thick cut. You get some potato flavor in there. The flavor of the habanero, I mean, habanero lime, right? Of course, this is like an all-natural product, so they can't necessarily use other flavors to goose the experience the way some of these other products can and presumably do. With that said, the flavor here is pretty subtle. What is distinctly not subtle is the heat. I mean, it's subtle for the first 5 seconds, and then it arrives and makes its presence known. It's not an exhausting level of heat, but because it takes a minute to arrive, where it hits you is in the back of the throat, which is why you saw me like coughing. It's not so much because it's like, oh man, this is like getting pepper sprayed or whatever, although it's not entirely unlike that, right? Similar ingredients. But the problem isn't even so much the intensity as just where it hits. If this were that level of spice hitting initially, you know, on the roof of the mouth, on the tongue, kind of just around the front of the mouth. And don't get me wrong, it gets there too, but it doesn't hit there first because since it takes a few seconds to arrive, you chew and then swallow, and then boom, that's where it gets you. So that is not my favorite way to experience spice in snacks. It's just not. And I mean, I think you can understand why. I don't need to be eating potato chips and breaking out into a coughing fit. You know, if what I want is a spicy chip, I want my mouth to warm up. I want to feel it on my head. I don't want it to be like, you know, Muhammad Ali is warming up using my uvula as the speed bag. Furthermore, and again, some of this is probably the all-natural aspect, just the flavor is not that, you know, it doesn't pop. I mean, I'm not even really getting that much of the lime, which is kind of surprising. I would think if anything, you've got lime juice concentrate solids in here. I would think that at least kind of the acid would kind of jump out. You know, brightness-wise, I can barely taste it. I mean, it's there, but it's not, it's much more prominent in, say, the Pringles. So what you're left with is the habanero. Habanero peppers don't taste like that much. They're hot. At least that's been my experience with snack-ized versions of habanero peppers. It's mostly the heat. And so what you're getting here is it's almost like you eat it and you're like, oh, a potato chip. And then just, you know, the back of your throat goes crazy and then your whole mouth goes crazy. But I didn't get to enjoy kind of that pepper lime experience before the heat. It was just like almost like a regular potato chip that then just kicked me in the face. Not the way I like my spicy chips. And it's not because it's too spicy for me, but like, if it's going to be spicy, and especially this spicy, I would like to taste it a little more before that happens, especially if there's going to be a delay. Give me a little more flavor up front. Again, I realize that this might be a liability of the all-natural product, but I just feel you had to have been able to do more, surely. I mean, I've eaten Kettle chips that tasted excellent. Where's the flavor? There's not enough flavor in these. To me, I just don't think there is. So, heat-wise, sure. There's plenty of that, eventually. Flavor-wise, a little disappointed. So Blue Diamond has several varieties of hot and spicy almonds out now. They have a wasabi, there's a sriracha, and then they have these, which I saw at Walgreens fairly recently. Blue Diamond Xtremes. Warning, this snack kicks back. So there were 3 flavors of this. So you see where it says hotter there. There was hot, which I believe was cayenne, hotter, which is ghost pepper, and there was hottest, which was Carolina Reaper. I briefly considered buying all 3. I didn't because they were like $6 or $7 for this tin, which I realize almonds are expensive, but a little more than I felt comfortable spending for a product that I wasn't sure I was going to like and might kind of destroy me. I don't think I had the Jelly Bellies yet when I bought these. I forget. It was around the same time. But, you know, after the Carolina Reaper experience, I was pretty glad I did not buy the Carolina Reaper almonds because that just would have been painful. Not that I don't think this is going to be painful, because it probably will be. So almonds is the top ingredient, and then second is ghost pepper seasoning. So extractives of ghost pepper. So again, my fear is sort of that this is just going to be hot and is not going to taste like a lot of anything. But they do have, you know, salt, spice, sugar, paprika. So maybe. Well, this is the angriest looking of these snacks for sure. It smells mostly like roasted almonds, so okay. All right. I think this is my first encounter with something containing ghost pepper, which used to be the scariest sounding one until they invented Carolina Reaper. Here we go. Waiting for it. Boy, I don't want to tempt fate here, but did I really save this for last only to have it be the least spicy one? It's not that there's no heat. There's kind of a little sort of river of heat along my tongue where I sort of swallowed the almond kind of, you know, middle going back, but it's pretty mild for now. We'll see if that changes. You know, it's possible that on any individual almond, these are not huge, that there's just not that much, but you know, when you're like threatening me on the lid, I'm sort of expecting a little bit more. Let's try a couple more. Good almond flavor. Like a good roasted almond. Okay, there we go. It's picking up. Oddly enough, you know, this is the scariest looking one, but it really has kind of the most pleasant, even burn, at least so far. I've had like, what, 5? It's creeping in a little now, but it's really pleasant. I know that sounds weird to say, but it's not super aggressive. It's kind of just warming the tongue. It isn't like abrasive in its heat. You know, I can sort of feel it warming me, but you know, it's like I'm standing in front of a fire like in the winter, like, you know, warming my hands up. Like it's a nice warmth. Not what I was expecting out of the extreme ghost pepper almonds. I was expecting that my mouth was just gonna be on fire in like a bad way, like, you know, Carolina Reaper jelly bean type of way. So far, it really is not like that at all. Right down the middle of the face. Can't mistake that. So again, these are clearly hot. But again, in a nice way. Let's not go all Blair Witch Project on you there. Okay, it's starting to build a bit, just the more I eat. You know, a lot of the other ones that just kind of all sort of arrived at once and then didn't go anywhere because there kind of really wasn't anywhere for it to go. mean, it built up a little bit in terms of like the overall sensation, I think, and I could feel my head sweat more. But as far as like how hot my mouth was, it didn't necessarily change much from the initial impact. These start slow and then build on you. So I'm at a point now where it's starting to be, my tongue is pretty hot. The other interesting thing about these is my tongue is hot, but it's almost like just my tongue, which is a little weird. Not a whole lot going on in the back of the throat, which again, I appreciate. I really don't want it there, the hot, the spiciness. Not even that much around the sides of the mouth, a little bit along the roof of the mouth, but it's primarily just kind of on the tongue, which is interesting. It's strange that you would have sort of all these different spice heat delivery mechanisms. They just kind of arrive at different places. This one just seems to arrive primarily on the tongue and sort of gradually. Don't get me wrong, it certainly gets hot, but not like insanely hot. The levels of sweat that are appearing on my head right now might seem to be making a liar out of me, but I don't know, it's weird, right? There's something, it's almost like it's sneaky, but not in the same way that like the habanero was sneaky. The habanero was, don't do anything at first and then whap. This one, it's almost like just sort of, here's a little bit, here's a little bit, here's a little bit. It just sort of warms you gradually as you eat a few more. Meanwhile, your head is like, I know what's going on. And is sweating like crazy. But, the inside of the mouth is not on fire. It's warm, but it's not just like, I can't. Like, again, the Carolina Reaper jelly bean, like the inside of my mouth hurt from eating that. Like legitimately kind of hurt. That's not happening here. I can sort of feel it kind of a tingly maybe. Not like not an insane level of tingles or really bad tingles, but like as far as like, there is a warming sensation that I might describe kind of that way. But it's not painful in any way. So look, you've got to like heat, obviously. I think these are really good. Not the reaction I was expecting to have to this lineup of products. I mean, they still taste like roasted almonds, so you get that nice roasted nut flavor, and you have to also like roasted almonds, I guess. But if you like roasted almonds and heat, these are kind of an amazing product because you get that nice roasted almond flavor up front, that little bit of salt, and then the heat starts building. Never really too painful. It's just warming you up. And then you start sweating. And then you're like, oh, that was pretty spicy. But it never is just like, bam, bam, right in your face. Like a lot of these products want to be. This doesn't leap at you. It kind of takes your hand and walks you up the garden path, and then boom. Before you really kind of know it or feel it, there's a lot of heat going on. But again, everything about this experience I've found to be surprisingly pleasant. I was thinking I was going to be like in pain, and it just has not happened. So, yeah, I mean, wow. Ghost pepper almonds. Very good. Very good product. Go buy these if this is, the sort of thing you like. So that's it for this episode of Flax on Snacks, another fiery 5 of sorts. Shockingly to me, Blue Diamond Almonds Xtremes. Ghost pepper. I cannot speak to either of the other flavors. It is entirely possible if you get the Carolina Reaper one, you will find it highly unpleasant. But if you like a good amount of heat, and you like almonds, and you don't necessarily like it when heat just punches you hard, but kind of warms you up, these really work. They really work. I remain shocked at how well these worked. Everything else was good to fine. My least favorite, I'm sorry to say, is probably the Kettle chips. Just, I needed more flavor-wise, and I said it before at least once, I understand it's probably some sort of liability from the all-natural. You can't just kind of punch that flavor up, but then maybe don't make really spicy chips. I don't know. But yeah, the Pringles, I'd say, were probably the number 2. Scorchin, chili and lime, good flavor in there. Good amount of lime, especially. And the other 2, the Cheez-It grooves and the Flamin' Hot Limon Kettle cooked Lays were fine. I mean, those were kind of, I would call those replacement level spicy snacks, totally fine if just what you're looking for is, a snack product that will, make your mouth hot. But they didn't wow me. So there you go. Yeah, so that's it for this episode. Now that I have finally gotten to the much promised spicy snacks episode, not sure what the next one is going to be, but my ears are always open and my eyes are always open for new and relatively new snack products. So I'll be on the lookout. Those Reese's peanut butter cups with the potato chips in them are supposed to be coming in March, which this is March. So I've been looking out for them. Haven't seen them yet, but I will continue to keep my eyes peeled. If you spot them and know where to get them, let me know in the comments if you have a suggestion for an episode that you might want to see me do. Whether it is a new product or some sort of theme episode kind of like this. Also let me know in the comments. And yeah, like and subscribe, I guess. This is what YouTube people say. So sure, go ahead and do that. I mean, if you got this far into the video, you probably are fine with hearing me talk. So why not hear me talk some more? And sign up to hear me talk to know when I'm saying new things. Anyway, letting this ramble on as usual. So that's it for this episode. I will see you next time. And in the meantime, I'm going to go wipe my head down a little bit more. See you later.